Now what most of the times the show cause notices do is, they very easily put a sentence saying, this information was not supplied to me, and therefore there is a suppression of facts. And this is where I think one needs to understand what exactly is meant by suppression. Courts have consistently held that suppression is a deliberate act of not disclosing something which was required to be disclosed. If in 2006, in 2007, I felt, and I had legal backing to feel so, that repairs of roads is not taxable at all, why should I come and tell you that I am doing repairs? There is a return which I kept on filing regularly, but your return does not have a column to specify services which are not taxable, which are excluded from the levy of service tax. Friends, there is a column which talks about exempted services, services which are exempted through a notification. But there is no column to mention the value of excluded services. So if there's no column, and nowadays the returns are also online, so you can't add your own columns, add your own notes. So where was the onus on me to inform you that I had undertaken road repairs? I had an onus to inform the VAT authorities because VAT is payable on the road repairs. I have discharged VAT. Look at my VAT assessments. I have paid VAT on it, and it is disclosed duly in the returns filed with the VAT authorities. I have to pay income tax on income earned from these road repairs. My income tax returns show this amount. It's not a case that I undertook a contract, opened a bogus bank account, took all the monies in that bank account, and did not disclose it in my annual accounts. When all this information was readily available, how can there be suppression? And this is one important line of argument which will always be used in these types of show cause notices. So that is one more point which can come out. Just to summarize this controversy, we are trying to highlight 4 or 5 lines of argument. Firstly, we are saying that as far as the BOT contracts are concerned, they are more like performing statutory functions and not in the nature of rendition of services. Repairs of roads are specifically excluded from industrial construction service as well as works contract services. Road cannot be defined to be property because it is not capable of ownership. Composite works contracts cannot be vivisected at all, and the extended period of limitation cannot be invoked. I think these are the broad lines of arguments which the contractor in the first controversy should use to ensure that the demand finds its dust. Of course, this is not a repetitive issue because luckily from 27 July 2009, you have a notification granting an exemption for maintenance, management or repairs of roads. It will present its own sets of controversies. As I was highlighting, now people will start talking about airports, railways. So the next in line could be railway repair contractors. But well, that's the way we have to, we start learning in bits and pieces, and that's how the controversies keep on coming up. Each time you have some new controversy coming up. That's as far as the first controversy is concerned. We already summarized this. As far as construction of roads, there is no controversy at all. It's generally understood that it is exempted from service tax. As far as repairs is concerned, according to us, it is exempted, but the department has taken a view that it is taxable for an intermediary period. Maintenance can present a bit of a complication because some of the lines of arguments do not work for maintenance. What is the difference between construction, repairs and maintenance? I think we'll need one more session to discuss that in detail, but there are lots of decisions and you can go into details. What we are trying to say is repairs is a one-time activity of bringing the road back to a working condition, whereas a maintenance is a periodic commitment to maintain the property which is already in an existing state of affairs throughout the period for which it is being undertaken. So that's broadly the differentiation between repairs and maintenance. Let's now go to controversy 2, and this is actually the pot boiler. Each place where I go, this is something which presents lots and lots of questions and a fundamental doubt of whether what the government has done, it has done in the right perspective. It's relating to service tax on sale of under construction flats, the entire real estate sector, the level of controversies which exist in the service tax as of now. I think they'll need to build more and more courtrooms wherein these matters can get heard, and ultimately we have some proper concepts on this entire thing. Let's look at the pre-amendment position. Let me take you back prior to July 2010. It was a entire circle being taken right from 2004 when construction service was introduced. At that point of time, without any clear reason, CBC went ahead and clarified, and rightly so, that contractors are liable for payment of service tax. Estate builders who build shops or commercial premises and sell it are not liable for payment of service tax. While all of this was happening, there was a very peculiar case brewing up under the Karnataka sales tax law. And under the Karnataka sales tax law, this very specific type of an arrangement, wherein there were two parties, one a landowner, another a developer of the land, entering into two split agreements, separate agreements with an end customer, and contending that there is a sale of immobile property not liable for VAT. Matter reaching the Supreme Court taking a position that the second party, who is a developer, is actually in the shoes of a works contractor and is liable for payment of works contract tax. Let me tell you friends, this was K. Raija Development Corporation, very peculiar facts. And of course, the Supreme Court again has doubted that position and has referred the matter to a larger bench. But what happened was, the Service Tax Department officers and the DGST also went ahead and took up the principle from this judgment and said that builders are actually contractors if they enter into an agreement to sell prior to completion of the entire project, and therefore they would be liable for payment of service tax. Lots of controversies went around after that, and end of the day CBC went ahead again and clarified, settled the dust by categorically saying that builders are consumers, self-consumers of construction service, and they do not provide construction service, and it is not correct to levy a service tax on such builders. All of this was in 2009. So the water got more or less settled. But then, the government also at times acts like a naughty son. I have a naughty son of 5 years old. He doesn't like any water to be still. So the moment the water in the pond gets still, he just starts putting some pebbles into it. And the moment the ripples start coming, the water starts moving, he gets excited. So in 2009, things got settled. Everyone accepted that yes, sale of under construction flats, sale of under construction offices is not liable for service tax. Now comes budget 2010 and a proposal by means of an explanation to levy a service tax on such under construction flats. That's what precisely happened on 1st July 2010. How? They do two things. And the first thing is the biggest catastrophe. They are talking of the service tax law. And the first thing which they did was, the definition of commercial or industrial construction service, the heading itself was amended and the word service was dropped from the heading. So, it's like saying, you have a Ramayana, you have a Ramayana without a Ram. You have sent Ram on an exile. Whether you can do that, that is what all of us know that it has actually happened. But then, you had his Paduka, and Bharat used to look at the Paduka and worship it, and he always used to feel that Ram is present. So the Paduka was deemed to be Ram. Same way, through an explanation, you are deeming certain things to be a service. First thing you do is drop the word service, and then through an explanation, you deem certain activities to be service. It's a very weird and a long explanation. I have reproduced it, but please note the bullet points are mine. It's actually a single sentence which continues as an explanation. What it says? It says, construction of a complex which is intended for use wholly or partly by a builder or any person authorized by the builder before, during or after construction, except in cases for which no sum is received from or on behalf of the prospective builder, by the builder or a person authorized by the builder, before the grant of completion certificate. By the time you reach here, you'll forget where you started. But in short, what we are trying to say in this small text is, in case where full payment is received after completion certificate, service tax is not applicable. That's exactly what we are trying to say in that long text. Shall be deemed to be a service provided by the builder to the buyer. Very complex definition. Difficult to decipher this complex definition. Before we go into that, let's quickly look at the simple parts and throw them out, and then we go into the complex interpretations attached to things which are taxable. Let's very quickly look at things which are clearly not taxable. That except thing which I went on very quickly simply says that if a builder constructs the flat, waits and has the patience to wait till the entire flat is constructed and the building is complete, and thereafter sells the flat, then sale of such completed flat is not taxable because it is clearly a sale of an immovable property. Even K. Raheja Development Corporation could not apply by any stretch of imagination to these types of transactions. When I'm talking of this, in the lunch part, a couple of participants asked me this question, that how do you look at the agreement for sale and the date of possession and the completion and all those things. I think of importance in the law right now, the way it is worded, are two events. One is receipt of money and second is completion of the building. Everything else is irrelevant. You may not enter into any agreement, but if you have received some advance before the completion of the building, then the explanation is wide enough to cover you. You may contest it legally, that's what we are going to do in the next slide. But you cannot say that because I have not entered into an agreement for sale or I have not entered into a sale agreement, I have just kept the money as a loan or an advance, therefore the explanation is not triggered. That is not the way you look at it. You have to ensure that you receive no sums of money against the property which you are intending to sell. So sale of completed flat on which no advances are received, not liable for service tax, very clearly out, simple enough. Resale transactions not covered. This is again a question which keeps on coming. Many a times builders take n number of years to construct the premises. The first person has booked a flat. He does not have the patience to wait for so long. He is getting a good price, and so he sells an under construction flat to a second investor or a second buyer. The definition, as it is currently worded, it clearly says service provided by a builder. The first investor can by no stretch of imagination be called the builder, and therefore resale transactions of under construction flats are clearly outside the service tax purview. There's a definition given to complex, and that definition includes only complexes wherein there are more than 12 residential units. So if a complex has 12 or